Hey gun people, gonna do a catch up on a couple videos here. The wind's not blowing too hard, I can do it outside and cover a few things that, okay, the one thing is this one guy asked me a long time ago, and he wanted this he wanted a video on what do you look for in a lawyer if you're involved in a shooting. And I mean, I don't know how many people kind of think of this, but if you get involved in a shooting, you're probably going to need a lawyer. I happen to pay in once a year, I think it's 120 something bucks a year, into a thing called Texas Law Shield. And they specialize in defending use of force. They represent cops, they represent other people. When I was a cop, we're covered and we have legal protection when we use our gun, because we're using it under the agency's authority, and the government doesn't want to get blamed and they don't want to have liability transfer to them. So we have unions and stuff that pay in that gives us representation, free lawyers. This Texas Law Shield that I use, if I get in a use of force issue, anything where I use a weapon, whether it be a knife, a gun, anything to defend myself, they represent me for free. And so it doesn't cost me anything. Now some companies, there's different ones across the country. Some will say, you know, we'll represent you through the first hearing, we won't do appeals. Some will say, we'll represent you, but we don't cover expert witness fees and we don't cover this fees. So, I mean, you got to ask some certain questions if you get one of these programs. But if you get in a shooting situation and you need a lawyer, I would look for a lawyer who does use of force or shooting cases. So if there's a firm and you don't belong to it and you get in a shooting, I would call that firm and see if you join after the fact, or can they represent you, or will they cut you? Because, I mean, that's all they do. And if there's one thing as you learn through life, is someone that does something all the time and that's all they do, they get really, really good at it. So, you know, you don't want a guy that does plumbing and does painting and does framework and builds houses and then does yard work. He may be good, but he's not going to be as good as the plumber that does nothing but plumbing all the time, every day. He's not going to be as good as the guy that paints every day, all the time. So, you know, when you're looking for things, if you want the best product, you want something that somebody does all the time. It becomes second nature. If you want somebody to teach you self-defense, you don't want some freaking liberal who's read about it in college teaching you how to defend yourself. Okay, you want somebody who's actually had to defend himself. If you want to learn how to fight, you need to have somebody who's been in a fight. You can't have people teaching you that's never been in a fight. I mean, because they don't have that actual experience. They may have the foundation and the numbers, and they'll be able to teach. But, I mean, you just need to understand that people that do something every day, they get good at it. They learn shortcuts. They learn from their mistakes. They make mistakes. They learn from those mistakes. They grow. They have training on other people's mistakes. They surround themselves with people that do the same thing they do, so they learn from other people's mistakes. And with a lawyer, it's no exception. So if you were to get in a shooting, what I would look for in a lawyer is somebody who has some experience in defending. I don't want a child custody lawyer defending me if I get in a shooting. Okay, I mean, I don't want some ambulance chaser who does medical hacks and, you know, cuts deals for because you got hit by a car and they want to sue the trucking agency. I don't want him defending me. So obviously you want the specialty of the person on what you need. If it's a shooting case, a use of force case, a gun case, you want those people. See, if the NRA was worth half their salt, they would do things like this and make sure that you have coverage. They would have a list of attorneys for gun people. They would have things that would actually help the gun community, instead of just having 1,000 people sending out things saying, send me more money so we can have our building, so the president can make $1 million a year. So when you try and call over to the NRA and talk to somebody, the only person you can talk to at the NRA is if you're paying a bill or if you're giving money. You cannot talk to anybody. And I've said this before on why I don't like the NRA, and I know I'm going to get gun haters here. They're the greatest. Without them, we would lose our... Look, they ain't stopping nobody from doing nothing. They're helpful. They've paid some lawyers. They've done some lobbying. Yeah, I buy all that. But the money we give them is not going for the guns. It's going in their pocket. It's an agency that lost their way, and I just don't want anything to do with them. I'm tired of them. And if you don't believe me, call over to the NRA and ask them. What do I do if I get in a shooting? Is there lawyers? Oh, sorry. If you can get somebody to help you, they're going to say the only thing we can do is take a payment. Call over there and ask them, say, hey man, I don't want to buy a stolen gun. I'm buying a gun that shoots. Is there any way that I can check to find out if it's stolen? You won't get anybody. NRA can't help on that. They can't help protect gun owners. They can damn sure ask gun owners to support them and give them money. I don't want to turn this into NRA, but anyway, you need to find somebody who represents gun owners. You need to ask the questions on how many cases have they done, do they know case law, do your own research, look up some case law that maybe goes to you. Attorneys have databases that are really great. And again, when I worked at the DA's office, if we need to know something about a case law, the attorney could punch into this data that the government paid for. You know, they pay this outrageous price, $500 a year per attorney, so they can access this database. But when you type in this database, it searches nothing but case law and records. So if I'm searching something for gun shootings, it will give me 10,000 hits. And if I want to do gun shootings with multiple suspects, it'll give me this many hits. Gun shooting rulings with whatever. So there's a lot of search engines that you don't have access to as a person. And I mean, would I represent myself in a shooting? I don't know if I would give up my entire representation to an attorney, but because when you do that, you kind of give up you give up any control, because attorneys like to be in control. They want to run their game their way because they think they know best. They're the professional. You're paying them to do this. Don't tell them how to do their job. And any professional is that way. Hire a private investigator. They don't want you, you know, if I was going to investigate for somebody who works as a private investigator, I don't want you telling me how to investigate a case. If you hire me as a private investigator, then you need to trust me that I'm going to investigate it the right way and that I'm going to do the best job I can. And lawyers have that same attitude. The only problem I have with lawyers is they have no consequence for their failures. The only thing they have is maybe a little bad reputation, but they don't go to jail, they don't have to pay your fines, and they get paid at the end of the day no matter if they do a good job or a bad job. So, you know, paying this fee in to where, you know, annually to where you get free representation, I think it's a good deal. I think that's the future of gun control coming. The government's going to require you to have insurance and require you to have attorney fees and require you to pay more money in order to own guns. Like I said, I don't think they're going to come and try to take the guns. It's going to be more of a, we're going to make it so hard to get guns. We're going to raise ammo. We're going to tax each round of an ammo. We're going to limit the number of ammo you can have. We're going to require backgrounds for guns and ammo. We're going to require backgrounds for magazine and magazine parts. We're going to require storage facilities where you have to wait 10 days and then you have to pay somebody to store it. We're going to raise the price and make it so damn costly for people to own guns that most average citizens can't afford it. Therefore, we're going to reduce the number of people that can afford to own guns. And then when we want to pass gun legislation, we're going to have very few people that's going to care because there's only going to be a few people that can afford to own them. And that's how gun registration is going to happen. That's how they're going to get the guns, and that's how they've been going after the guns, and they've been doing it for years. And the NRA has been sitting there saying, we're saving your guns, and without us, you wouldn't, whatever. I don't want to get on the NRA. So anyway, that's my spiel on what I think you need to look for in an attorney. If you get in a shooting, you need an attorney who's defended shootings, who's been to court in shootings, who has history in shootings. And if you do your own research, I mean, you can go online and search up some, you won't have as good a search engines as the attorneys, but you can do your own research, and you ought to have some good questions to ask your attorney. And if the attorney doesn't know the answers without looking it up or can't give you a good articulate answer, I'm not sure I want him. And the problem with attorneys is a lot of times you deal with, you know, the seller or the salesperson or the contractor. You deal with the person who wants to get you to sign a contract, and then he hands it off to some flunky attorney that you never met, and now you're stuck with this guy. So, you know, when you're asking a question about who's going to represent you, you need to make sure you're talking to the person that's going to handle your case, that's going to represent you, and that you're paying for him. And what he's going to be your direct contact, and you're not meeting with the boss who's going to sell you and tell you all the right things and look like he's got all this knowledge and be the smartest guy in the room, and then he's going to hand you off to one of his flunkies that he's paying half as much as he makes. So I know I've been asked that. This video's been on my list for a while. The guys asked me for a few times. I said I'd get to it. I got to it. There's your video on what to look for in an attorney. Hope that helps. We'll end that there.